Now welcome to a Let's Talk Some Star Wars video, where this time we're going to take a look at the results of the poll that I posted yesterday asking, how are you feeling about the Ahsoka series? After that, I'll then read and respond to some of the comments left on the poll. And so let's kick this off with the results, where we'll see that 11% of voters said they're feeling confident that this will be great. 39% then went with the response of hopeful but have some doubts. 17% then said they're keeping their fingers crossed, but they're not sure about this one, which left 12% to go with I've got a bad feeling about this, and a final 21% who said they just don't care one way or the other about it. Alright, and I'm going to waste no time and jump right into the comments, but not before once again just taking a moment to say thank you to everyone who votes, comments, or watches these or any of my videos. It is all very much appreciated, as I appreciate everyone who supports this channel over on Patreon. Thank you very much for that. And so now let's kick it off, as we always do, with the top rated comment, which this time came to us from Derek Lopez, who said, "If I'm being honest, I have neither worries nor confidence. After 3 failures like Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and The Mandalorian Season 3, I honestly can't see myself having any high hopes. Don't get me wrong, I'll still give it a shot, but I'm not expecting too much." And yeah, I understand exactly how you feel. I mean, don't get me wrong either. I'm excited for this. I think this will, or just really want this to be good or great, considering I'm a fan of Dave Filoni. I'm a fan of Ahsoka. I was a fan of the show Rebels. I think it could be great to see Hayden yet again as Anakin Skywalker, be that in a flashback to the Clone Wars or as a Force ghost or whatever it might be. Basically, it seems like I have every reason to just be eager and excited for this, if it wasn't for the recent track record of Disney Star Wars, where if it wasn't for Andor, the last 3 live-action shows or seasons in a row, the ones you mentioned in your comment, they would have all been bad, and in some cases, really bad. I am still amazed at some of the ridiculous things we saw in the Kenobi series. How in the world were they written, filmed, and put on screen without anyone realizing how ridiculous they were? That said, in a way I'm trying to look at this, at the Ahsoka series, as something kind of independent of those previous projects. I'm trying to look at this as what Dave Filoni, more or less on his own, can do with live-action Star Wars. This is, you could say, his test to see if the apprentice is ready to become the master or not. And speaking of that, next up we have this comment from Goro Akichi, who said, "My main concern is how much they're playing into the Thrawn trilogy and Filoni's tendency to pick and choose what cool things from Legends he uses without going the extra mile." And this might be the biggest or most important part of that great test I was just talking about for Filoni, the part he cannot get wrong for multiple reasons. He cannot screw up Thrawn. I mean, not only is he going to be the main antagonist of this show, of the Ahsoka series, but I think it's a pretty safe bet he's going to be the main antagonist of this whole damn time period. That his ultimate defeat won't come until the Mandoverse movie we've been promised that Filoni will be writing and directing, so his setup for that better be pretty well executed. Especially when you consider, for some people, this will be their first time really seeing Thrawn. This will be their introduction to this very iconic character, and he better make a, shall we say, good first impression, so that they understand the level of threat we are dealing with here. While for others, well, for some of us, we've been a fan of Thrawn for over 30 years at this point, and want Filoni to get him right, not just because we want the show and time period to succeed, of course, but because he's an absolutely amazing character that, if you're going to use him, you better do him justice. I think I speak for a lot of fans when I say we're sick and tired of fan favorites being handled poorly or used by those who just don't understand them, or don't really care about them the same way the fans do. Plus, for those of us who loved the EU, we don't want the characters and concepts from it used in name alone with no respect given for what they once were. I think it was a very bold move to have, in the Ahsoka trailer, to have her refer to Thrawn as the heir to the Empire. I don't know that you wanted to sort of make this kind of promise to the fans, or maybe a threat, depending on your point of view, that you're going to, in some respect at least, you're going to give us your take on a very classic story, especially when we know full well you really can't give us that story. There are a lot of reasons why that book cannot simply be shifted into the new canon, of course. Though sure, and most likely, I think Filoni was just trying to kind of tip his cap to the fans of Thrawn and those original books. He was trying to say he understands what he means to them, He understands that he can't take this lightly, this character lightly, and that if, again, you're going to use Thrawn, you have to do him justice. You need to give us the real version of him this time, unlike what we kind of got in Rebels, for example. Though, yeah, I do understand that in that show, we had to get a somewhat watered-down Thrawn. It was, after all, essentially a kid's show on Disney XD rated Y7 or for 7-year-olds. So it's not like he was going to show up and immediately eliminate the Ghost Crew or something along those lines. We knew that, in the end, he was going to take an L of some kind, or be removed from the board by something even he could have never predicted. And yeah, I guess giant space whales qualifies for that. That said, in the Ahsoka series now, he better get the win. Thrawn better get the win in the end. He better be the brilliant character who is always a few steps ahead of his opponents. He better more or less be the same character that Timothy Zahn has been writing for decades at this point, which includes the 2 most recent new canon Thrawn trilogies, which then brings us to this comment from Bisk Skywalker, who said, "Honestly, I am really scared. Thrawn and Ahsoka are my favorite characters, but especially with Thrawn, I feel like there is a high chance they'll mess it up and break the canon once again. After having finished the Ascendancy trilogy, I immediately thought, there is no way they will respect all of this newly established lore, given how much the movies and shows have cared about books thus far. And I think that's pretty sad because I really enjoyed his backstory." And the funny thing is, it has mainly been Dave Filoni who doesn't seem to have too much respect or care for the books and comics of the new canon, especially when it comes to his characters, it seems. The canon comics and the Ahsoka novel are the best examples of what I'm talking about. That said, it was only 1 book and a relatively short series of comics, and honestly, it's only the Order 66 part of the canon comics that really kind of got messed up. The rest you can keep intact. And again, they were, not that it technically should matter, but they were Dave's characters, I guess, originally. But in this case, with Thrawn, we're talking about 2 trilogies worth of new books that by and large have been enjoyed by the fans. I know I have enjoyed them very much. They're some of the best books in the new canon, maybe the best books in the new canon. And this is a character that is, of course, not his own. And I really can't imagine, or don't want to imagine, Filoni wanting to piss off Timothy Zahn by ignoring what he's been doing with this character over the course of these 2 new trilogies, all the while, in a sense, also using the name of his original Thrawn story, using Heir to the Empire, to help kind of sell this thing, all the while it not really being that story either. Like I said before, it really can't be. You can't really kind of push this into the new canon. Plus, there are a lot of characters like Luke that would have to be relied upon heavily, which I don't see happening. Anyway, I just can't imagine Filoni doing that. I'd have to imagine or hope that he has had a few long conversations with Timothy Zahn about all of this, about Thrawn and the stories that he has created, both in the past and the present, and that he'd want to incorporate elements of those new books into this story in order to explain Thrawn and his motivations, which Zahn does a terrific job of in those books. That he only joined the Empire to potentially get their help against another threat out there, or a threat to the Chiss ascendancy, that of course being the Grisk. That Thrawn is anything but some kind of mustache-twirling villain who does evil things because he's evil. This show and the time period will fail if that's what Thrawn is presented as, and Filoni has to know and understand that. We cannot have another somehow Palpatine has returned with our big bad villain. Not that, again, Thrawn is a villain per se. Alright, and next up here we have this comment from Tim, who said, "This show is going to decide whether or not I continue to keep up with new Star Wars projects in the future, such as the Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, etc. If Ahsoka falls flat, it's over. I will pay attention to the projects that have already proven themselves, like Andor, The Bad Batch, and the Fallen Order games." And there were quite a few comments that echoed this sentiment. A lot of people who kind of feel like they're at this impasse with Star Wars, where the next bad thing and they're out. On top of all the other fans who have jumped ship after previous shows or movies were bad. And sure, like this comment says, maybe some of them will come back for certain projects. I saw a lot of comments saying the only thing they have any interest in at all right now is Andor Season 2. But not to be Captain Obvious here, but that's the real problem for Disney and Lucasfilm, right? Not only do I feel like Star Wars just doesn't draw in new fans anymore from the younger generations like it of course once did, but on top of that, they're just hemorrhaging fans pretty much every time they put something new out. Instead of the vast majority of fans just being excited and rather confident, you got, with this poll, 21% of people who voted they have no interest in this show one way or another. And considering they likely watch my channel or have at some point if they got this poll and voted, you then know that at some point pretty much every one of those 21% was a Star Wars fan that once upon a time, or had things been different with previous content, they again would have been nothing but excited for this. Instead, they just don't care either way, and that's rather sad. There is a rather famous Star Wars character who once said something about apathy and death, and that seems to kind of apply here. Alright, and let's do a few final comments now before wrapping it up, starting with this one from Captain Pep, who said, "It's hard to be excited when they've made so much crap recently. Mando Season 3, Kenobi, Boba Fett, 3 series with beloved characters, yet they did so much disservice to it. Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, and Andor were all good, and I hope Ahsoka is closer in quality to those instead of something like Kenobi, but I'm honestly not sure." Alright, we also have this comment here from Mars Speedman, who said, "I'm pretty sure most of us are drawing the line at Ahsoka. It's more than just, are you excited or do you think it'll be bad? We're all watching, anticipating Disney's next move. Ahsoka will answer our question, can Disney ever do Star Wars justice, or is not even Dave Filoni enough to make Star Wars great again? I of course hope we get the best show we ever got, but I'm not turning a blind eye if it doesn't." Then there's this one from MSFL54 who said, "My issue with this, if this threat is so big, where is Luke? I can't imagine him not leading the charge." And then this one from Slipstream who said, "I have no faith in Filoni, nor do I think Ahsoka should have survived Rebels. With that said, I really hope it's good so that people who do care about it will enjoy it, and maybe Star Wars can gain back a bit of the good reputation it used to have." Then we have this one from Sean Kuhn who said, "I'm pretty sure I have the same opinion that a lot of fans have. Andor was good, but Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and Mandalorian Season 3 were disappointing. If they can't do Thrawn and Ahsoka well, not just okay, it needs to be done well, this might be the point where I just cancel my Disney Plus subscription." Well, that's going to be all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell me how you're feeling about the Ahsoka series, which is just about a week away at this point. Are you excited? Are you fearful? Or are you not going to watch? Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.